Hey, Mike and Tammy from the SteelDrivers, welcome to eTown. It's taken way too long to make this happen.
Way too long. Gosh. Thanks, Nick.
Man, oh man, we've known each other a long time. Tammy, you were on eTown 20 years ago or more with Kieran Kane.
30 years ago.
30 years ago, yeah.
Keeping track.
30 years ago, that's right. Yeah.
I was just a young lass, yes.
You know, in music, it just is all, it's all the same.
You know, notes don't have age or gender. That's what I like to say. So, yeah, it was a good time.
Well, it's so cool. And I feel a special connection because I know so many of you guys from different contexts, and we've been around each other. I was just telling Mike Fleming that I think we crossed paths in 1978 at a bluegrass festival when you were in the Mid-Missouri Hell Band.
Yeah, what a name for a band. Yes, it was.
The Mid-Missouri Hell Band was probably short-lived, is my guess.
Well, you know, I think we persevered for about 5 years.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Good.
But yeah, finally one day, Henderson and I were riding in the back of a station wagon, and we went, it's about time to do something else.
And Mike Henderson was in that band.
He was.
And Mike is in a way the architect of the SteelDrivers.
Right.
Yeah, we like to call him that, and very, very aptly so. He's the guy that called all of us.
Yeah.
In August of 2005.
Yeah, and you were in Reba McEntire's band at the time.
I was at the time, yeah.
And Brent was in Dolly's band, and you guys, you were busy.
All doing stuff, and but Mike and I had worked together in the mid-'90s with the Dead Reckoners.
Yeah.
With that indie label there in Nashville. So we had a good history.
So I think it's important to at least let the folks know that Nashville has always been at least two different communities, more than two, but certainly one that was pretty conventional, making commercial records and doing all the things and really working to try to get on the radio. And then there were all the subversive types.
Guilty as charged.
And so a few of these subversive types decided to, rather than wait to get signed to a record company, they would start their own record company.
Yeah.
Which they did.
Yes.
So Mike Henderson.
We were early adapters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was cool, and you put out cool records. You made cool records.
Very
you
proud
supported
of that
artists.
stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you and Mike had that in common, but then
Yes.
he called you. So what was that call like? What happened when he said, "Hey, I got an idea," or what was it about?
Well, it was just so casual. He just called me up and was like, "Hey, Tam, how you been? Good, you know, and how's the fam? Good. You feel like maybe getting together and playing a little bluegrass?" And at that point, I hadn't really played any bluegrass in about 15 years.
You started out playing classical music.
Classical at school, and then in public school, which was amazing that we had string orchestra in my
Weren't
school.
you like 4 times all Texas state orchestra?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever done it since.
Back in the day, you don't... Really? I didn't know that stat. Wow.
I made it up.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's keep it. Let's go with that.
I think it's true.
That's
I love
intro
it.
material now.
It's urban legend now.
Yeah.
It's good. I love that.
And we crossed paths. You were a bluegrasser as a teenager.
My folks were grassers, so I grew up doing both, which is, absolutely idyllic, I think.
Hugo, Oklahoma,
1978.
Yeah.
And yes, I was a diehard Hot Rise fan and had the first record probably on cassette.
Yeah. They hadn't been invented yet, probably.
Yeah, but so great.
Yeah.
So
but you
great.
come from that whole world of and it's hard to describe that time period, late 70s, early 80s, when there is that hunger. There's a lot of young players. Everybody wants to be great. You all want to be around the people that inspired you and records you. But there was no internet.
Yeah.
There's no YouTube. There's no cell phones. The only way you're going to get to connect is in person.
Yeah.
You had to find, people drove long distances to go to festivals and be around these people just to get the magic firsthand.
Yeah.
It was cool.
And I grew up in Texas, and probably much like Missouri, we were lucky. It was such a big deal. Some of the national acts would only come through once a year.
Yeah.
So you really made a point to get out to that festival to see, J.D. Crowe or Hot Rise or
Jim
Nashville
and
Bluegrass
Jesse,
Band, all those, Bill Monroe, Ralph Stanley. I'm showing my age here, but I did get to see Keith Whitley with Ralph Stanley.
Wow.
Which was, I'll never forget it. So those are moments in your life that are crystallized up there.
Yeah. So you had a history, and Mike's there as the chef and architect, just saying, I got this idea for this thing I want to cook up.
Yeah.
And he called you and said, come over, and And
Mike
he
was
called
there,
you Mike, and he
yeah.
called Richard.
Called Richard. A lot of us knew each other too, and then
But I did not know you
Right.
at that point.
Right.
Richard and I had grown up together playing those festivals, circuits. He's a couple years older than me, so he was,
Yeah.
you know,
That
a
guy
mere
over there.
child.
Yeah.
And
He reminded me of our first meeting in Elk City,
oh,
Oklahoma.
Elk
Wow.
City, yeah.
And how we had somehow managed to find our way into his hotel room and then convinced his band to turn the sound off on the TV, and we all had to act out the parts in whatever movie was going on.
Oh,
So we were a bad influence from the very earliest
wow.
possible.
that's one.
I'm sure there was no alcohol involved in that.
No drugs or alcohol
No.
anywhere.
Well, Hendo then, so we all introduced us, and we sat around in a circle, and he just said, well, I'm thinking about getting he always had a weekly gig at the Bluebird
Yeah. It's
as
Monday
a bluesman.
night, yeah.
And he goes, I'm thinking about getting a bluegrass weekly gig or something.
Yeah.
Or monthly, whatever,
Or monthly,
you know.
whatever. And, and it was a way to showcase all these songs he and Chris had been writing for 4 years
So
or
Chris Stapleton was not a known quantity at this time, and
No.
it wasn't a guy that you guys had met.
No.
And he
Not
was
met
just
him.
hanging out with Mike Henderson and writing songs.
Yeah.
Right.
So when he called you, he and Stapleton had already had a bunch of songs written.
They did.
And they just said, let's play these songs.
Well, at first we didn't know.
We just
and
started doing,
We learned a couple of covers.
Yeah.
And they started, Mike was like, well, how about this one? And Chris would sing it. And I just remember scratching my head going, how have I missed this old Stanley Brothers song? Because the song sounded so traditional and
Yeah.
so just authentic
Yeah,
to the
beauty of
tradition.
beauty of a great new song is that it
Yeah.
sounds like a classic.
Yeah,
right on.
and they did.
And what a singer, man. That must have been a
Holy
hard...
smokes.
And not a bluegrass.
Holy smokes.
I remember, because I saw
Jeez. He
I
knocked
s-
me off the chair almost.
Yeah.
When he just would hit
I
that
saw
one thing, and I was
the,
like, God.
Yeah, amazing. I saw the SteelDrivers really early on.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think it was maybe a thing where maybe you opened, or we were on the same bill or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, but it was in a hotel somewhere in Nashville, I believe.
Oh,
said-
yeah.
Was it the
Was it an IBMA?
IBMAs
thing,
maybe.
or
Maybe something like
something
that.
like
Yeah.
that?
And I was confused. Like, I remember thinking,
We
like,
were very confusing.
well, it was so great, but it wasn't like anything I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
And Chris Stapleton was playing a Gibson guitar, and I was thinking, well, that's
ain't bluegrass.
that's not bluegrass, and it wasn't, but it was, and it was true and soulful and deep. I was embarrassed to have been surprised about it, actually, but I know that was the sign of a band that sounds like itself. And that's the hardest thing to do, is to create something that's going to be uniquely yours.
Yeah.
And you guys did that.
Yeah, and I think, that was Mike's genius, because he handpicked everybody. And from the very beginning, it was, he wanted everybody to sound exactly the way they sounded.
Yeah.
And to play the way they played. And I've never been set free like that.
Me too.
That's so cool.
So many of us were, as Tammy would say, side bellies. We were in country bands playing sides. And
And
we
then you
were
have to
always
play
the
somebody
sides
else's
person.
part,
Yeah.
and that there's
Yeah.
skill in that.
Every night.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's just something so creatively freeing when you're just creating the music in real time.
Yeah.
And there's no way, if somebody had played me Chris Stapleton's voice and said, you're going to sing with this guy and it's going to be something really unique, I would have said, no way, I'm not going to sound good with that singer, because I don't have a bluesy, raspy voice. But because it wasn't planned out, we just started doing it, and I just started singing, just opened the mouth singing, and what came out, and it just,
Yeah, it was so cool.
it was just a magical thing.
Well, what's also cool is that you have, Mike quit after 6 years or so, because he was in
Something
Mark
like that.
Knopfler's band and he was writing hit songs, and
Right.
he had other things to do. And sadly, Mike's no longer with us after just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But Mike left the band, Chris Stapleton left the band. You found other people. Brent's been in the band 14 of
Oh,
your
yeah.
20 now, or
Yeah.
something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
Like that.
he's
and amazing player, and you found singers who are themselves also.
Yes.
And you found players who are themselves. Brent doesn't play like Mike, and
No, not
that's
at
just
all.
fine.
You know, we've always had singers that have never played bluegrass, usually. Really, they hadn't. And it was like, that's it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a lot of us that play bluegrass, so we
Yeah.
might as well have a different point of view.
Yeah, it's
And,
super cool.
Yeah.
Well, new record is called Outrun, and Tammy, I understand you. That song was the last one to be cut, and you
Yes.
wrote it the week before you went in the
Yes.
studio. And it's a grim tale
Just the way we like them.
written by a couple of women telling
Yeah, I
stories.
know, right?
Yeah.
Nothing like
The Shelby GT4. I mean, how did you even hear about that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, I love that about songwriting. You know, you can kind of live vicariously through a lot of unsavory characters. You know, one of our bits when we're playing out is just to let the audience know nobody up here has been in prison.
Yeah, things like
Not
that.
all of our songs are autobiographical, so. So
And then
that's-
you follow that with a love song. I choose, you know, it's just like the sweetest song there is. So
That's it.
it's a little
her
unfair.
best songs right there.
It's a little unfair
Yeah.
because, you know, we'd like to
Yeah.
think of you as this one. I mean, it
Yeah.
is mostly death and destruction.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more coming.
Yeah, there's more. Well, listen, congratulations on so many things. 20 years as a band is tough to do.
you.
Getting
It
signed to
is.
Sun Records is
Thank
cool.
you.
Winning a Grammy, doing all the things, sounding like yourselves, and finding a way to make friends and connections on stage that the audience can feel. You know, they feel you guys as a band,
Right.
which is really cool. So, congrats
Thank
on
you.
so many fronts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Let's get back to music. Welcome back to SteelDrivers.